Hey there, I'm the MadCatster. I'm glad to see you here. Well, Lauren the Mortician's attorney, Jeanette Braun, we've looked at some of the nonsense that she's been up to and the lawsuit that she's filed in Illinois against some of the other creators that we went over together and broke down. And nonsense doesn't stop because now some new information has come to light that exposes some interesting facts about Ms. Braun, and we're going to talk about that right now. You know me, I've got the deets and all the receipts, so buckle up and let's go. So I am here, thank the gods above, with Sybil the Enforcer. Sybil says, please like and subscribe. Right, Sybil? We're over 40,000 subscribers now. We're actually at 40,000 and like 300 subscribers. So we're on the march to 50,000. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed. We would really appreciate it. Let's get to 50K by the end of March. That would be awesome. I love all of you guys and I appreciate your support. So anyways, Jeanette Braun, Jeanette, aka Janet, Lauren the Mortician's attorney. We're not going to rehash the lawsuit. We all know that she's filed the lawsuit in federal court in Illinois. And one thing that was interesting was I saw that Runkle of the Bailey had done a video. And he pointed out, because I had read also the judge had issued an order. What the judge was saying was, you haven't given enough information to establish that their court has jurisdiction over these defendants that you've named because you haven't provided definitive information about where they actually reside. That included, as Runkle pointed out, Jeanette herself. She listed on there that she's a part-time resident of Illinois. Not a full-time resident, and she didn't indicate where her other residence is. So clearly she's her main address isn't Illinois anymore. Her firm's address is Illinois, and we're going to get to that in a second. But that's a problem. And so Runkle was really nice. He had just sent me a quick email. He had said that he liked some of the videos I had done on this particular issue. And I know that, I mean, everybody's done videos on this by now, but I really appreciated that. I watch his stuff. I appreciated it. He had mentioned that in California, there's this divorce case pending that has a Jeanette Marie Braun. And I mean, if she's not living in Illinois, I mean, it would be reasonable that we would assume that maybe is her. And he had just said, you know, is it possible it's not her? And so I said, well, I thought to myself, I love digging, so let's go digging. And I found out that that divorce case, it didn't look like it was her because I ran a background check and it's perfectly legal, this service that I use. And this Jeanette Marie Braun kept popping up in California. So it was clear to me that she seemed to be a California native. And her husband turned out, the one that's divorcing her, is actually incarcerated in prison. So I thought, well, that would be a great story if this is her. But since it looked to me like that was probably not going to be her, I said, well, let's go back to the basics. So I looked at the federal patent and trademark stuff that she had filed, and there was an address for her. So then I went to, and I'm not going to dox her. So then I went to where her address was, and I went to the Registry of Deeds, and I found her, and the address matched. And then, because of that, her husband was also on the mortgage, and I'm not going to name him because, again, I don't want to dox anybody. It's not necessary. Her husband was on there. So then I looked for her husband, and then I found where he worked, and I found that it looked like he had been transferred to South Carolina. So I thought, well, maybe that's where they're actually living. So I went and I started looking for Jeanette, and wouldn't you know, and I'm going to show this to you too in a minute, she popped up leaving a very nasty 1-star review for a real estate agent. And I just thought to myself, how rich is that? Because she was criticizing people about dissing her clients, and we talked in my last video about how she was advising her clients wrongfully that they should put a disparagement clause on the sales of their merchandise, presumably to stop people from saying anything negative at all about these companies or their products, which is against the law, as we talked about. And I thought, well, isn't that rich? Here's Jeanette trashing some real estate agent, leaving her a 1-star review, and I'll put it up in a minute. And yet she's sitting there telling other people, oh, you You can't say nasty things or negative things about my clients, or you're defaming them. By her logic, then maybe she's guilty of defamation against this real estate agent. And Madam Real Estate Agent, you might want to think about filing a suit against federal civil attorney Jeanette Braun for saying nasty things about you. Anyways, there was a zip code associated with her review. And using that, I figured out the area in South Carolina. I went to the registry of deeds. Long story short, yes, I found her. She and her husband now live, apparently full-time, in South Carolina. So she does not live in Illinois anymore, apparently. She does still own property there, but my guess is she's probably renting it out. And I don't know why she says she lives part-time there. But anyways, she lives in South Carolina. So that doesn't preclude her from filing in Illinois federal court. But there has to be some kind of jurisdiction for the court. So presumably what she's trying to do is say, well, I'm a part-time resident. My law firm is based here. Therefore, because my law firm and I are plaintiffs in this case, we're going to file in federal court in Illinois. Makes sense. However, when you consider the fact that she does not reside in Illinois full-time, her primary residence is apparently South Carolina. And then there's a question of her law firm, which is an LLC, which presumably is going to be where she is, since she's the sole member of the LLC. So then you have to look at this lawsuit and think, well, if she complies with the judge's order that they provide more information, this case is probably going to get dismissed from the Illinois federal court, because the court's going to decide, in my opinion, that there isn't sufficient jurisdiction over this case. And Runkle had asked the question, and obviously it's a good question, is why didn't she file in South Carolina, where she lives and where she would be perfectly within her rights? The other thing that's weird is that, that we had talked about before, is that Janet and Lauren the Mortician are both plaintiffs, even though Janet is Lauren's attorney. So it's kind of weird that the law firm, the attorney, and the client are all plaintiffs suing these people. So that's a conundrum right there. Okay. And I think that inevitably, once Jeanette does or does not comply with what the judge is asking, the court's going to decide it doesn't have sufficient jurisdiction. And my guess is that lawsuit's going to get dismissed. And then, presumably, if she wanted to, she could decide to file where she lives, which is the federal courts in South Carolina. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that, but that's my guess. Now, let's talk about the prestigious law firm of Braun IP Law, which is one of the plaintiffs, and which is her law firm. Now, I thought to myself, after reading the things that she's written and the legal actions that she's taken, that sounds like a great place to work. Maybe I could go to Illinois and drop my resume off with the receptionist at Braun IP Law and say, look, tell Janet I'd like to work here. I just have to be able to represent clients in federal court. And I am admitted to federal district courts, and I'm admitted in several federal bankruptcy courts, and the federal appellate court and the Court of International Trade. So I figured, well, maybe I will. So I decided, well, let's look up Braun IP Law and let's see, because I want to know if they've got really nice offices, if it's going to be a comfortable place for me to work. And I looked it up. And wouldn't you know, gall darn it, this is where Braun IP Law apparently is. Yes, folks, a UPS store. That is Braun IP Law. Presumably, she's taking advantage. They promote their services as you get a street address for your business, and the post office box, it's not a post office box, but the mailbox that they maintain for your business has a number, but then you list that as like a suite. And that's apparently what she's done. Listed this address of the UPS store, and she's listed a suite. And I thought, well, maybe I should make sure that it's not hidden in this, because it's a plaza with this address. Nope, there's like a Chipotle and there's a bank, but there's no offices there that I found. So knowing what I know about UPS stores, it was apparent to me that the UPS store is where Braun IP Law lives. So there's no office for Braun IP Law. It's just a mailbox. So that also calls into question, well, if it's just a mailbox, it's not a physical location, really. That raises some other questions. But anyways, so that's what I found out. They live in South Carolina, which I'm sure she probably didn't want anybody to know. And the only reason why I'm telling you she lives in South Carolina, and I'm certainly not going to give any more information than that, is because it's relevant to the fact that she's held herself out as being a citizen of Illinois for the purposes of this lawsuit. And she is not. Because if her residence is in South Carolina, she's domiciled in South Carolina. That's where she lives. She's not a resident of Illinois. And so she should not be filing on behalf of herself in Illinois. She should be filing where she lives. That's my opinion. Anyways, let me know what you think down below. I'd be interested to hear your take. This web of intrigue continues to grow and spread, and we'll keep an eye on it. And I'm waiting to see, the deadline's going to be coming up. I think it's early February that the judge wanted supplemental information in order to determine whether there's jurisdiction to allow the lawsuit to even remain in the federal court in Illinois. We'll wait and see. I'll let you know when we find out. I would like to give a big thank you to Sean Alexander, who sent me 3 coffees. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, from the Buy Me a Coffee link down below. I would also like to thank Melanie, who sent me 10 coffees, because she knows I need to be really caffeinated. And I want to say thank you for that, you guys. I really appreciate it. So I'd like to thank a few people from Amazon. And again, I'm going to thank some more people tonight, and then I'm going to put together the rest of the people I haven't thanked in the next video. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be an update on some of the Illuminati stuff. So I'd like to thank Amatrine Moon for sending us one of the big cat balls that's got the jingle bells in it that the cats love to kick around the house. And I'd like to thank Karen R, who sent us one of those nice warm round beds that the cats absolutely love, especially in the winter time. And then from Anonymous, somebody sent us a case of Friskies Pate cat food. Thank you so much for that. The cat food, we go through so much cat food. My recycling guys, when they pick up the cans, must think that I'm running a rescue out of my house. Then from Megan T, we got some Jumbo Temptations cat treats. And we also got another one of the balls with the jingle bells in it. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it, you guys. And from Crafty Beach on YouTube, we got a bunch of the catnip toys that the cats absolutely love, that we go through a lot of because they don't last very long, especially with this many cats around. But thank you guys so much. We really, really, really appreciate all the stuff you send us from the Amazon wish list down below. It's all stuff just for the cats. The coffees are for me. That's the only thing. I'd like to thank our Patreon patrons. Again, so much for your monthly support. It helps me to take care of the vet bills every month, which are quite substantial. So I appreciate all that. I appreciate the channel members who also give us monthly support. You guys help defer some of that cost. I really appreciate it. I had some smart ass say to me, "Aren't you rich? Why do you need..." It's like, no, will you people stop thinking that all attorneys are rich? I am not rich. This painting behind me cost me about $450 at an auction several years ago. So this isn't some Renoir behind me. So stop thinking that I'm rich. I'm not rich, okay? So just very briefly, those of you who know that Sybil was not well, I was very concerned because she's got stomatitis, which is an inflammation of the tissue in the mouth that flares up regularly. And so she's on steroids. And very occasionally she will get a little pain reliever if it's really bad. But basically every 2 weeks she gets a shot for steroids. Well, she got her shot the last time, but within like less than a week, her mouth was hurting again. And not, really hurting, like she wouldn't eat. So I was very concerned. So I brought her back immediately to the vet. And my vet, he really upset me because he said that we needed to start doing palliative care and basically like hospice care, and he prescribed painkillers for her, stuff I could put on her ear that would transdermally give her the medication, and he wanted me to give that to her like 2 or 3 times a day. And I don't know if any of you are familiar. When you're at that stage, that means they're not going to be around for long. And that's the way doctors sort of alleviate any discomfort in the ensuing however long it's going to be. And I was devastated. He told me, he goes, well, she probably has an aggressive tumor under her tongue that even if I operated would still come right back. And, you know, there's not much we can do because she's 16. I don't want to put her under. Well, what really annoyed me was he hadn't really looked in her mouth, because when she's in pain, she'll snap at you. She will not let you touch her mouth. So he had never in a long time really looked inside her mouth. And he didn't offer to do any x-rays, nothing. He just made this diagnosis. So I had noticed that there was a smell coming from her mouth that, to me, in my experience, smelled like infection. So I said to him, will you please give her an antibiotic shot? And the antibiotics that they use last for like 14 days. And he said, well, it can't hurt, so sure, I'll give it to her. Well, wouldn't you know, within 2 or 3 days, she was crunching treats, eating again, and she's been fine since. We went and got another steroid shot a couple days ago, and the antibiotics are still in effect. Seems to be working. Her mouth seems to be back to stable again. And we're going to get her a follow-up. I insisted that when the 14 days of the antibiotics runs out, we're going to get her another one to go another 14 days. It was clear to me that what was making her improve was the antibiotics, because they had given her some painkiller, but it only lasted 3 days, and she was improving beyond that time period. So I know the antibiotic, whatever is wrong, it's helping. So I've insisted that they give her another one. I may even insist that they give her another one after that. And I told you guys in my note that I left on the community page, I was bartering with God to please let me have her for a little bit longer. And I'm so glad that she's getting better. Thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate your support. It means so much to me and to the cats. I've got that video coming out, an update on Illuminati that you're not going to want to miss. And the rest of the people that I need to thank will get thanked. But in the interim, take care of yourselves, love one another, and I will see you in the next one.
Pretty please. Subscribe, like, and hit the bell. I get a treat for every new sub. Thank you.